Thank you. The gentlelady yields. I now recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes of a closing statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank our witnesses for being here today. Today, unfortunately, my Republican colleagues and some of the witnesses continue to fearmonger and perpetuate the hateful myth that migrants are criminals, dirty, and stealing American jobs. The reality is, and the data shows, that migrants are far less likely to commit crimes than American citizens. And the jobs that they are looking to take are ones that Americans are not taking. New Yorkers know better. We understand the contributions that immigrants have made to our economy, our city, the fabric of our country. As the home of Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, many immigrants have come through New York and made it the melting pot of the world to the great benefit of so many, including Mr. Borelli. Republicans refuse to admit to a few important facts. Immigrants boost economic activity, promote innovation, and, importantly, when given lawful work authorization, pay hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes. So when we complain, and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle complain about taxpayer money that is propping up and paying for the migrant situation that we're dealing with, there's a solution, which is that if they are included in our communities and in our workforce, they will pay taxes. Businesses need the labor. Mr. Borelli acknowledged that. I certainly hear that from the business community in New York, which wants labor. There's a labor shortage in many different industries. And border security is a very serious issue that Democrats take very seriously. But unfortunately, as Ranking Member Thompson said, my Republican colleagues' treatment of the problem is not serious. Instead, what we get is a litany of blame Biden excuses. Let me just rattle off a couple that we heard here today. We should blame Biden for the deteriorating governments in Central and Latin America that is forcing so many to flee from corruption, destitution, and political persecution, fear from criminal enterprises. We should blame Biden because he is, quote, complicit in the criminal enterprise of the cartels. And Biden has enabled cartels to prey on the border through human trafficking and the fentanyl trade. Blame Biden for that. And blame Biden, Mr. Borelli said, for the cost of this situation falling so much on New York City. Both of the witnesses from state government said today that Arizona in Mr. Lyons' case and New York in Mr. Borelli's case should not pay for the expenses that are coming from the inflow of migrants. I agree with that. I agree. But the problem is Congress appropriates money. President Biden and the administration do not. They cannot print money. And so the mechanism that is available to pay for localities and states to house and support migrants is called the Shelter and Services Program. In H.R. 2, Republicans have zeroed that out. But the White House supplemental appropriations bill includes additional funding for states and localities to pay for this. And if we want to talk about costs, we are heading head first into a government shutdown, which is going to cost U.S. taxpayers $6 billion a week. My Republican colleagues do not seem to care about a government shutdown that will cost $6 billion a week. Instead, they want to cut all sorts of non-discretionary spending, including in the Department of Homeland Security. And their proposal would cut the budget by 8%. That would be over $2 billion. Customs and Border Protection, which, Mr. Lyons, you've encouraged to be boosted, would have to reduce its workforce by 800 officers and agents. Tens of thousands of pounds of drugs would come in because of that reduction. So it is Republicans here who are failing, who are creating this crisis for their own cynical political game. We need work authorization. There's a statutory requirement for asylees to wait 180 days in order to apply for work authorization. The administration cannot change that. Congress can. We need more immigration judges to deal with the backlog of asylum claims. The administration cannot unilaterally do that. Congress must do that, and that is in the White House's supplemental bill. We need to address the cartel's control of the border. And how are they controlling the border? They are controlling the border through guns, and those guns are coming from the United States. We need, as Congress, to address that. And there are many other ways that we can reduce the problem at the border, including more border security, which is also in the White House supplemental appropriations requests. There are unquestionably near-term costs to sheltering migrants, but the solution is not to shut them out, to stick them on the street in horrific conditions, to give them to the cartels to do with them what they will. We can help cities like New York without rejecting the fundamental values of the United States of America. Mr. Borelli understandably did not like some of the xenophobic comments from the 19th century about Italian immigrants coming over here. Thankfully, those really no longer exist, but there are other forms of xenophobia that are just as wrong. We can treat people with humanity, especially those who are escaping horrific conditions, as we work, hopefully together, to fix our broken immigration system, because both Democrats and Republicans agree that it's broken. So let's not play political games for electoral benefit. Let's get together and find some actual solutions. It cannot be on the administration itself. It does not have the power to fix our system. It has to be on Congress. And we, on the Democratic side of the aisle, welcome further discussions with our Republican colleagues to address the root cause of these problems and fix our system. It's time for us to get back to work that this committee was created after 9/11 to do. Mr. Chairman, I hope we can build on this and continue to work together to actually find solutions to the problem, not just not just blame others for the problems. And I yield back.